Welcome to BBC International News. First I will tell you the news title and then the details. Now I will tell you an important news: top US universities are struggling to top US universities are struggling to deal with student protests over the Gaza issue. I will let you know right away: Israel will not accept US sanctions on army units. I will tell you the latest news: Iran launched a drone and missile attack on Israel. So far heard the news headlines, now in detail.
Now I will tell you an important news: top US universities are struggling to deal with student protests over the Gaza issue. Student protests that started to protest the war in Gaza have now spread to other universities beyond Columbia and Yale University in the United States. University officials are struggling to deal with the growing protests. Dozens of students were arrested at Yale University on Monday to stop the protests. On the other hand, in-person classes have been temporarily suspended on campus at Columbia University for fear of spreading anti-Semitism. Protests have also spread to other colleges and universities, including Berkeley, California. Meanwhile, it is said that the pressure is increasing day by day on the officials of the educational institutions to stop the protests and keep the campus calm. The Israel-Gaza war started on October 7th last year due to Hamas attacks. Since then, pro-war demonstrations and debates have been on the rise at top U.S. universities. Students on both sides claim that both anti-Semitism and Islamophobia have recently increased on university campuses. Columbia University authorities allowed New York City police to enter the campus last week to quell the protests. There, the police arrested dozens of protesting students, which made headlines around the world. On the other hand, protests have spread in several other educational institutions in the United States after the arrest of students. Police arrested about 50 students who protested at Yale University on Monday to deal with the situation. Hundreds of students of the university have been protesting in the campus for the past few days. The university authorities said that despite repeated requests by the protesters to keep the campus calm, they ignored them. That's why they reported to the police under a lot of compulsion. On the other hand, many of the protesters called for a reduction in investment in the military arms manufacturing sector. Other universities in the United States where protests have spread include University of California, University of Michigan, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and Emerson College. At New York University, about 12 kilometers south of Columbia, protesters pitched tents. Student protesters at New York University, like some other universities, have called for divestment from companies that supply Israeli arms. However, there are also accusations of spreading anti-Semitism from these protests. A video posted on social media also showed some protesters expressing support for Hamas attacks on Israel. Protesters, however, have denied the accusations of spreading anti-Semitism. They say that their protest and criticism is only against the activities of the State of Israel. Meanwhile, Columbia University authorities said on Monday that for the time being, all their classes will continue online. Columbia University President Minochi Shafiq said in a statement that the university authorities have taken such a decision to avoid intimidating and harassing behavior. Students who do not live on campus are advised to stay off campus. A Jewish chaplain associated with the university also sent a message to Columbia's 300 Jewish students, asking them to stay off campus until the situation improved. In addition, the president of Columbia University said in a statement, Shafiq said that in order to unsettle the campus, a group of people who are not affiliated with Columbia have taken up residence on the campus to protect their own interests by spreading protests. The university administration has constituted a committee to resolve this crisis, he said in the statement. Along with other officials of the university, Shafiq visited Capitol Hill last week. There they testified before a committee of the U.S. government. On the other hand, several teachers feel that the university authorities are also responsible for the rapid spread of the protests. They feel that it is wrong to call the police to the university campus without stopping the protest in a peaceful way. President Joe Biden was asked to respond Monday to the protests that have spread to top universities in the United States. He condemned anti-Semitic protests. In addition to university protests, there have been widespread protests in the United States over the Gaza war. Pro-Palestinian protesters recently demonstrated in Chicago. In addition, protests were seen blocking roads in many other places, including San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge and New York's Brooklyn Bridge. They have been urged to tackle anti-Semitism in the university as well as resolve the issues that have arisen. A group of federal lawmakers led by New York Republican Representative Ellis Stefanik signed a letter on Monday, where Dr. Shafik has been called upon to resign. In the letter, Ms. Stefanik said, "The university administration has failed to stop the anti-Semitic protests." On the other hand, after the protests started, the Democrat representatives, who won and who lost in Iran's attack on Israel, a draw in favor of Iran. This is how some analysts described Iran's first strike on Israeli soil. The Israeli military said Tehran fired more than 300 drones and missiles at Israel on Saturday night. Iran carried out the bombing in response to the attack on the Iranian consulate in Damascus and achieved all its objectives, the Iranian military said in a statement. Iran claims that Israel carried out the airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, the capital of Syria, on April 1st. They threatened to give a stern reply. 7 members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard and 6 Syrians were killed in the airstrike. However, Israel has not acknowledged the attack on the consulate, but is believed to be behind it. Iran claimed that the attack on Israel was successful. But, according to Ali Nourizadeh, an Iran researcher and director of the London-based Center for Arab-Iranian Studies, Iran did not score any points with the attack. Rather, he said, it exposed the weakness of the Iranian regime because they could not hit any targets on Israeli soil. This has sparked ridicule among some Iranians. Zadeh believes that Iran could have achieved more if it had continued its so-called psychological warfare with Israel. On the other hand, Tel Aviv University's Moshe Dayan Center Middle East Studies researcher Dr. Eric Runsky says Israel has failed by announcing increased state alert. It has fueled concern among Israelis, he said, and many fear a repeat of such attacks. Zadeh said that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu now feels more powerful. Although Israel had been under heavy criticism until Saturday, the Iranian attack helped restore Israel's strong ties with the United States and other Western nations. Israeli researchers may have gained something from the attack, but they lost it in other ways. His idea that the attack highlighted Israel's failure to recognize Middle Eastern power as well as Israel's failure to prevent Iran from striking at its borders, returned to intimacy with other countries. Israeli researcher Eric Runsky also thinks the Iranian attack has been profitable for Israel. This, he said, could serve as a turning point politically, as it is the first time in months that Israel has enjoyed Western support. He said Israel could return to a close partnership with these countries, especially the United States, after so long of unprecedented tension in relations. In contrast, Iranian researcher Ali Nourizadeh believes Tehran has lost politically as well as internally and externally. He said Iran had lost the support of neighboring countries and had no support for them. He noted that efforts are underway from some quarters to drag Iran into direct war with the United States. Both researchers acknowledge internal pressures in both countries. Rundotsky notes that great concern is spreading inside Israel. He says that with the war, anger grew because of internal political problems. As well as the recent lack of progress in freeing the hostages held in Gaza, this anger seems to have increased. Zadeh also believes that Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei is facing intense pressure not only from the streets, but also from prominent figures within his regime. The Iranian Revolutionary Guards, Iranian armed forces, are under pressure after 7 leaders of Iran's Al-Quds brigades were killed in an Israeli strike, as the guards demand revenge. Message of fire. Retired Lebanese General Hisham Jaber, a military and strategic expert and director of the Middle East Center for Strategic Studies in Beirut, told BBC News Arabic that the most surprising thing about this attack is that it was not surprising. He said this was because 2 weeks of psychological warfare had led to the airstrikes, while Israel was panicking. These attacks have disrupted many civil services and forced many Israeli citizens to flee their homes. As a result, it caused emotional and material damage. Jaber called Iran's move a fiery message, because through this, the ability to reach further into Israeli territory has been revealed, as well as the ability to test the readiness of the Israeli air defense system. He also believes that the attack has helped Iran regain the prestige it has lost politically in recent years. because Iran had followed the policy of strategic patience for so long, and it has benefited them both militarily and strategically. Lebanon's military experts believe that Iran launched this large number of drones to confuse Israel's air defenses. He noted that Israel's Iron Dome alone could not intercept all the missiles, and that it had to be assisted by U.S. and British forces stationed at bases in the Middle East. If Israel chooses to respond militarily to this attack, they could reach the Iranian mainland with their missiles.